This is Dr.Natrell. What brings you in today? What's up, guys? Welcome back to another great video. Today we'll be going over my personal top 10 Ballon d'Or rankings. This will be considering the 2025 to 2026 season, including the World Cup, including everything that matters in my opinion. Now, before we get into this, I just want to say don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe for the algorithm. Comment anything you want. It could be literally anything. It could be a period. It could be a you're wrong. It could be a you're idiot. You can say whatever you want. Your reactions to the list. You can do X, Y, Z, whatever you want to. Just comment for the algorithm, please. All I ask. Like, subscribe, and without further ado, let's get on to it. Before we get into it, I like to show some of my honorable mentions that me and Knox have. Knox is my friend. Just before we get into the main video and the top 10 list.
So I'm gonna be doing honorable mentions. And in my list, some of them might have made the top 10, but not in the doctors. So starting off with Declan Rice as first honorable mention, who's the heart of the Arsenal team, as we know, the best team for almost the whole year. The pivotal UCL performances and kind of ghosted during World Cup, and that's kind of why he's so dropped a little bit. Bruno Fernandes definitely fall outside of top 10 due to their stinkers at the World Cup. Kvara sits at the 6th spot above Dembele, but Doctor didn't see his performances that suitable.
No.
Didn't stand out to him. Messi won the biggest cup MLS this year. He's been all right in the MLS. I know that's not good. No brownie points for that, but obviously in the biggest stage he delivered 8 goals, 4 assists, carried Argentina to a final, which he didn't play too well in, but I think that deserves to prop him at about 11 under Declan Rice. And my next shout is Saka.
Alright, that's enough. Okay, that's enough.
Saka versus Messi shouts.
I'm sorry. The reason I have Kvara, Messi, and Declan Rice outside of the top 10. First off, Kvara had an absolutely astonishing season for PSG, one of their best players for all their competitions, especially Champions League. However, in my opinion, he didn't even make the World Cup. And again, this is a World Cup season. If this wasn't a World Cup season, Kvara could be top 5, could be top 3. But again, you didn't even qualify for the party. I don't feel as if you deserve to be in the talks with all these other players who have made it to the World Cup, who have competed in the World Cup. I understand Georgia's not a great country, but I feel as if he's as great as they say he is, he should be able to get Georgia at least in the tournament, in my opinion. I don't have Messi in here simply because Messi is an MLS player. If we're only going off of what he did in the World Cup, I don't see how he's a top 10 player in the world. MLS is a joke. It's like saying Ronaldo should be in this, in my opinion. Like, Ronaldo won trophies with the Saudi Arabia League, but we all know that league sucks. MLS league sucks. Messi had a great World Cup campaign, but he only scored against bad teams. I do think he's a top 15 Ballon d'Or prospect, but not top 10. No, I don't think that's fair to the other people that have been consistently in competitive leagues and as well as competed at the highest level in the World Cup. I just don't think that's fair to them. And Declan Rice, I couldn't tell you one thing he did for Arsenal this year. Great crosser, great guy that crosses the ball, I guess. He didn't have that many assists, that many goals. He won the league. He's not really a fun player to watch. He scored against France. I don't know. Declan Rice, I don't know why he said Declan Rice should be on this list. I haven't seen anything for Declan Rice. But with that being said, let's get into this video, or this top 10 list. Now that we're into the video, I would like to tell you my criteria for the Ballon d'Or. Consistency, the best individual performance this year. By that I mean the best player throughout the rest of the year. And World Cup performance. Those 3 are the most important criterias in my eyes. And without further ado, let's get into the first, or I guess the 10th place on this video. Coming in at 10th place, I have Vitinha. Now, Vitinha with PSG recorded 8 goals and 11 assists in 57 games, while being the best midfielder in the world throughout the entire season. He had 6 goals in the Champions League, and obviously won the Champions League, obviously. He also won the Ligue 1, he won the International Cup, he won the Super Cup, he won the Trophy des Champions as well, for a total of 5 trophies this year. Now, while playing for PSG, he was the best midfielder in the world and a very pivotal player in PSG's journey to two-peating in the Champions League. For PSG, he was sensational Vitinha, until the World Cup started, was seen as the best midfielder in the world. He was their entire offense, really, when you think about it. He's their creator. He also is a very dirty work kind of midfielder where he'll run back and track back. He's a great box-to-box midfielder who also can create chances for the rest of the team. He's been sensational for PSG this entire season. The big problem with Vitinha, though, in the ranking, in my personal rankings, is with Portugal, is where Vitinha lost a lot of Ballon d'Or hype. He was abysmal for his standards in the tournament. Some of that had to do with the coaching and the attacking options he had, sure. However, Vitinha is too elite of a player to let that hinder him from having at least a decent World Cup. Constantly, Vitinha was seen not even trying to advance the ball. He only passed the ball backwards or sideways, never created enough chances for Portugal to win the World Cup, in my opinion. Not to mention, he didn't record a single GA in the World Cup. World Cup is the ultimate say-so in the Ballon d'Or for when the Ballon d'Or is around. And due to his lack of production, I have him at 10th place for the Ballon d'Or. In 9th place, I have Nuno Mendes. With PSG, Nuno Mendes has been the best left back in the world for a few seasons, as well as for Portugal. At PSG, he recorded 6 goals and 7 assists in 48 games. He won the same amount of trophies as Vitinha. It may be true that Vitinha is more important than Nuno, as he's their creative midfielder, and Nuno's just a left back. The reason I have him above Vitinha is because of his World Cup performances. For Portugal, Nuno Mendes was easily one of their best players, if not the best player they had. He was their best defender by miles and one of their best offensive players as well. He got a goal against Uzbekistan, which isn't really hard to say, fair enough, but was always a consistent threat on the wing with elite crosses, and when defending, he was unmatched. It was rare to see him get passed by anybody. I believe Yamal did pass him a few times, but even so, he was quiet, or Yamal was quiet that game. He usually does really good defending Lamine Yamal. You know, he didn't have the best showing versus Spain, so that does dock him as well. He did get injured that game as well. And that also leads me to believe that he isn't as good as the other PSG midfielder, who I'm about to get to, which is why I have him at 9th place in the Ballon d'Or rankings. Next up, my 8th pick in the Ballon d'Or rankings is João Neves. Now, with all these PSG guys, obviously you see a theme here. PSG, outstanding regular season, mostly all of them stinkers in the World Cup, which again, by my own criteria and by the FIFA's criteria, it's not going to cut it for any of these guys to be very high up. Now, with João Neves, in my opinion, he was the better of Nuno and Vitinha, and he performed exceptionally in both PSG and Portugal. He had 9 goals and 5 assists in 45 games for them. Remember that iconic hat-trick he had this season? I believe it was 3 bicycle kicks in a row. Outstanding for him. The ultimate box-to-box midfielder, where even if he didn't record a GA, the kid was everything. He made elite tackles, underrated passer, elite in build-up play, and an absolutely astonishing motor from the kid. He won the same amount of trophies as the other two prior, but you may be wondering, why is he above those two? And that's when I get into the criteria I stated earlier, which is World Cup performances as well as consistency. For Portugal, he was their best and most consistent player in the World Cup. He didn't have a single lackluster performance, unlike Vitinha and even Nuno Mendes. Now, to be fair to Nuno, he did get injured with Spain, but then he was still struggling before that, in my opinion, not having his best attacking and defending game. However, that shouldn't hinder how great João Neves was his entire World Cup. He's a brilliant talent and one of, if not the best, box-to-box midfielders in the world this season. And that is why I have him in the 8th spot above his peers, and that being Nuno Mendes and Vitinha. 7th place in my ranking for the Ballon d'Or, I have the last PSG player, Dembele. Now, Dembouz is the next man up in my Ballon d'Or rankings. Dembele has an interesting year, to say the least. Obviously, we know the thing with Dembele. He's not one to score a lot. Also, he's not one to have explosive games in the regular season, as he is more of a coaster kind of guy, to where his stats are going to look impressive throughout the year, but the trophies he wins and the games he shows up in will always be massive. He recorded 22 goals and 12 assists while playing for PSG. He won League One Player of the Season. He won a Champions League while scoring a goal in the final. He was PSG's best player, in my opinion, this season, while also having a great World Cup campaign. Now, the big bugaboo with Dembele is his stats don't pop out to you as the others ahead of him do. Not a dominant scoring season, nor assisting season hinders him from being above others. However, for France, he was great, in my opinion. He has 6 goals and 2 assists in 8 matches played. Excellent stuff from Dembele. You don't usually see that for him when he puts on a France jersey. He had a great campaign for his standards in the World Cup, and that's what puts him above his Portuguese peers, as ultimately World Cup and player performances matters more than accolades, in my opinion. This is why I have Dembele at the 7th ranking of the Ballon d'Or. Now we get controversial. All the 7th through 10th guys are out of here. Now we get to the real heavy hitters with the 6th place spot in my rankings personally. Through all my criteria, I have Lamine Yamal. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out and you'll see why I have him ranked outside of the top 5. Lamine had a great season at Barcelona. He recorded 24 goals and 17 assists. He scored 6 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League. He won La Liga. He won Player of the Year in La Liga, won the Super Cup. He recently just won the World Cup. He was easily Barca's best player and helped them reach another consecutive La Liga title on the head of Madrid this season. But let's not forget what really matters here. Now, if we move on to what he did for Spain, as in, like I said earlier, World Cup years, always go back to the World Cup. What did you do in the World Cup? And the reason Yamal doesn't deserve the Ballon d'Or, in my opinion, is because of his World Cup performances. Remember, my criteria is consistency, best individual performances, and World Cup performances. Yamal for Spain was extremely disappointing for his standards. People believe he's the best player in the world. He played far from that, in my opinion. Only being able to get 1 GA throughout 8 games is abysmal for his talent level. He wasn't a top 4 player even on Spain, in my opinion. Cubarsí, Rodri, Laporte, Dani Olmo, Cucurella, Pedro Porro. I believe all those players, even Unai Simon, all of those Spanish players, in my opinion, play better than Lamine Yamal. You may be asking, then how is he above Dembele, Nuno, Vitinha, or João Neves? And the reason I have him above them is because his individual performances were miles better than those four. If you aren't seeing the theme so far, essentially Yamal has been the better overall player than those guys by my criteria. Dembele had a better World Cup than him, stats-wise, but Yamal clears him in individual performances, plus he won the World Cup. That is why I have him balancing out above Dembele, and why he is finishing in the 6th place in my Ballon d'Or ranking. Next up is one of the greatest sixes of all time that we've ever seen play the game. And no, I'm not talking about Drake. I'm talking about Rodri. And he may be coming to my club soon, which I believe will be a mistake, but that's neither here nor there. Rodri this World Cup was absolutely sensational. The first one on my list so far that can say they had a flawless World Cup campaign. Rodri this World Cup was Spain's entire midfield and defense. Rodri being able to completely erase the names of Messi and Elise just by marking them whenever they were in his vicinity is ridiculous. Rodri helping control tempo and create chances for the Spanish attackers in their build-up was phenomenal to see. Rodri being able to control this entire midfield while Messi having a weak World Cup is insane. He was out there by himself at most times, controlling the midfield as Pedri was being benched. Defensively, forget about it. This guy was perfect at everything. Tackles, interceptions, you name it, Rodri was there. He recorded no GA for Spain, but if you watch the games, it was undeniable that he was a top 2 player in the World Cup. He won the Golden Ball as well. World Cup is a lot of what matters in Ballon d'Ors this year in my criteria and in the FIFA's criteria. But what hinders Rodri from, in my opinion, winning 2 Ballon d'Ors is his season at Man City. For Man City, Rodri was, in many words, from City fans actually, he looked out of it, he looked washed, he looked injury prone as well, missing several games. Rodri played in way less games than he usually does. I believe 2 seasons ago he played 50 to 57 games. This season he played 37 games. He was bad in the game against Chelsea in the FA Cup, in which Man City scored the game-winning goal after he was subbed off. He was great in the EFL Cup against Arsenal, fair, but he never felt dominant as he used to. They did get second in the Prem, but he falls on the list of Ballon d'Or because he didn't have the consistency aspect I'm looking for, whereas the players in front of him were both great for their clubs and for their country. Rodri was only spectacular for his country, not really so much spectacular for his club, which is my consistency aspect. This is why I have Rodri in the 5th place on my Ballon d'Or rankings. Next up is America's favorite Norwegian, Erling Haaland. Now, Haaland is the first player on this list so far that checks off all my boxes. But you see the theme, right? It's all making sense, I promise. Haaland this year placed 2nd in the Prem while having a monstrous 51 GA in 56 games. Winning the Premier League Golden Boot once again. He had 8 goals in the Champions League. He got an assist in the FA Cup that they won. He was the best player in the Prem until Bruno broke the record for most assists. Haaland had an outstanding year for Man City, especially with the context of this supposedly being a down year for them, as their team was going through new names, new changes, new players, and all that. Absolutely outstanding for Erling Haaland from a Man City aspect. He as well was injured this season, so he could have played more games, so where he could have boosted his numbers even more. Outstanding performance from Haaland in the regular season for Man City. Now for Norway, believe it or not, it got even better. Haaland had 7 goals in this tournament and carried a team that has never been known to be successful in the national aspects to the quarterfinals, where yes, he didn't have his best game against England. That doesn't at all discredit what he did in the tournament. The 2 braces versus Iraq and Senegal, the game-winning goal against Ivory Coast, and the cherry on top, the brace that knocked out Brazil, him dunking on Gabriel for the first goal, and then the shot outside the box in the hopes of Brazilians all around the world was absolutely ice cold. He was tied for bronze boot, but Bellingham surpassed him for that. Norway went as far as Haaland went in that tournament, and that is why I have him at the 4th place for my Ballon d'Or rankings. Now, this guy I have in 3rd place for my Ballon d'Or rankings was the definition of game breaking this season. Absolute world class player. I believe this next guy and Haaland are neck and neck, but I gave the third place spot to Michael Olise. Olise has been sensational since the beginning of the season until the end of the World Cup. Olise recorded 25 goals and 28 assists for Bayern this season. Olise has been one of the best players in the world for a long time. Even when he isn't getting goals and assists, he's still a massive impact on the game through his relentless pressing and his constant chances that he can constantly create for others. Something you can't say about Haaland, as it's just not his playstyle. Haaland's not known for creating chances. He's not as flexible as Olise is to say. Olise won the DFB Pokal Trophy and won the Bundesliga comfortably. Olise was sensational for Bayern Munich, and he performed in massive games like his assist in the first game against Madrid, his goal in the second game against Madrid, and his goal against PSG. Olise had a flawless regular season for Bayern, and it carried right over to France. Olise recorded 7 assists in 8 matches while being the engine for one of the greatest offenses of all time. Despite his terrible performance against Spain, he immediately bounced back and delivered 2 assists in his final game against England. Olise this season broke Messi's single-season assist record of 34 by accumulating 36 assists in one single season. In his first World Cup, Olise had the most assists in a single tournament ever, surpassing Pele with 7 assists. He's 5 away from tying Messi's all-time assist record of 12, and I believe he will break that record in the next World Cup, but we're not talking about the next 4 years, we're talking about this year, and that is why I believe Olise is ahead of the rest so far and why he is third on my list for Ballon d'Or. Down to our final 2. Now with these 2, it can go either way in my opinion. I believe who I have in first place has been the best player in shout for the Ballon d'Or this entire season. But this man right here also has a great chance of winning it as well. And that man is Harold Kane. Harry Kane has been the definition of unstoppable throughout this entire regular season at Bayern. Harry Kane has recorded 64 goals and 8 assists in 56 games for Bayern this year. He was the best striker in the world statistically with stats that are straight up eye-popping. He won the Bundesliga and he scored a hat-trick against Stuttgart to win the DFB Pokal Trophy. It was impossible to stop Harry Kane from scoring this year. He earned the Golden Boot in the Bundesliga as well. He scored in both games against PSG with an assist in the first game. He scored twice against Madrid and got an assist in the second game also. He had an absolutely flawless club season. Other than winning the Champions League, you statistically could not have a better season than what Harry Kane did for Bayern. For England, he didn't disappoint nearly. He had 6 goals and 1 assist in 7 games. The lack of a great finish to the World Cup. Harry Kane had a phenomenal start to the World Cup, but after that Mexico game, he was terrible for England and non-existent. Norway, he was useless. In Argentina, he should have been subbed off early, but he was also completely useless, and that cost England a spot in the World Cup final. Especially with how Spain won the World Cup and Yamal not having a great showing, Harry Kane had the easiest layup to win the Ballon d'Or with at least something. With the goal against Argentina, maybe just making it to the final. He possibly could have just done it based off of that. But now it's a toss-up in my opinion because he couldn't at least score or get to the final. Harry Kane had the best regular season and was super consistent throughout this season with elite player performances throughout the year and a good World Cup performance as well. He is a fantastic pick to win the Ballon d'Or this season, but I think he fell short in the World Cup, whereas the man at the first spot was the best player in the world the entire season. That is why Harry Kane slimmed out to second place on my list. That brings me to my pick to win the Ballon d'Or for this season of 2026, and that man is Kylian Mbappe. The criteria for the Ballon d'Or has always and will always be centered around the best individual season from a player. Through my criteria and the official FIFA's criteria, I see Mbappe deserves his Ballon d'Or the most. Mbappe for Real Madrid scored 43 goals and 6 assists in 47 games. This led him to earning the Golden Boot in La Liga. He did not win Player of La Liga, but historically that award goes to a player who wins the league. He then goes on to score 15 goals in the Champions League, first time since 2020 with Lewandowski doing it for Bayern. He won the Golden Boot in that competition as well. Once again, best player in the tournament went to Kvara as they won the trophy. So far, Mbappe has been the highest scorer in his own league and the Champions League as well. Every competition he's competed in, he's been the best. He outscored Harry Kane and Haaland in the Champions League, while Harry Kane played in 2 more games than he did. He didn't win any player of the tournament or season due to the winner bias, as I believe he had the best production in both tournaments throughout. That's two competitions where he dominated the rest and showed why he has been the best player for their club this season. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mbappe goes into the World Cup and has one of the greatest World Cup campaigns of all time. He scored 10 goals and with 4 assists in 8 matches. He did have a stinker versus Spain, that is very, very true. But unlike Harry Kane, that wasn't his last hoorah for Mbappe, as he proceeds to get a brace and an assist against England in the very next game to become the first ever back-to-back Golden Boot winner in a World Cup ever. With his last goal, he also became the highest scorer in World Cup history with 22 goals in only his 3rd World Cup. He also grabbed the title of having the most KO knockout goals in World Cup history with 14 for his career. Again, if the criteria is legitimately an individual award, I can see how someone who in one season won the La Liga Golden Boot, the Champions League Golden Boot, the World Cup Golden Boot, was the first player to ever win back-to-back World Cup Golden Boots while breaking the World Cup goals record, first player to ever win 3 Golden Boots in a year, doesn't deserve to hold up that trophy in October. Mbappe, with all the criteria listed by me and FIFA, deserves the Ballon d'Or this year because he was the best individual player for the entire season, from his first game when he scored against Osasuna to his last game where he had a brace and an assist against England. Mbappe has been the best player this entire year in every competition he has played in. That is why he is my pick to win the 2026 Ballon d'Or. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching this video. Long video, I think. I haven't edited it yet, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this ranking is something you can agree on. If not, please let me know in the comment section why you think this, that, and the third. With all that being said, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. With all that being said, man, have a great day. Have a blessed day. Make sure you stay optimistic. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. Make sure you give somebody a compliment. Give a stranger a compliment. You never know what they could be going through in their life, so it's always nice to try to brighten up someone's day. Don't forget to keep praying, keeping God number one. With all that being said, this has been Dr. Natrell. You can schedule your next appointment at the front desk.